Bilingual Radio, your podcast for all SAE, FFA, and agriculture adventures. I'm Lila.
And I'm Natalie, and we're your hosts for this podcast.
We currently serve as your 2023 to 2024 Florida FFA District 9 President and Secretary. And we could not be more excited for our year of service with some of the brightest FFA members from across District 9.
Today, we have a very special guest with us from the great state of Michigan, the National FFA Association President, Amara Jackson. Amara, we're so glad that you could be here with us. It's such a cool opportunity to be able to speak with you. If you could, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so first off, my name is Amara Jackson. Like they mentioned, I am super pumped to be with you here today, and I feel honored to be on your podcast. So like they mentioned, I grew up in Michigan. I'm from a small town called Corunna, and as a Michigander, we do the map. So it's right about here on the map, and I grew up there. I went to Corunna High School, where I graduated in 2021. I was part of the Corunna FFA chapter for about 6 years. During my time with Corunna FFA, I had a supervised agricultural experience in equine science and then another one in agricultural sales. If I had to choose one contest that was my favorite, I like to tell people it's public speaking. I loved the prepared public speaking contest. And then after I graduated, I served as the 2021-2022 Michigan FFA State President. And then after the conclusion of that year's service, I transferred out to Oklahoma State University, where I'm currently a junior there studying agricultural communications and agribusiness.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're just going to get a little bit started. So you kind of already hit a little bit of how it started, but could you share your journey of how you became involved with FFA in the first place?
Yeah, so I took I took my first ag class my 8th grade year. Didn't really fall in love with FFA, wasn't really involved in FFA, just was in the ag class. Same thing happened my freshman year, just again was in the ag class, but my older sister, Amara Jackson, she was in FFA and she was a senior at the time. And so she knew all the greatness that FFA had and all the fun and opportunities to learn and grow and the ability to become a leader. And so she was like, Amara, you've got to do this. You got to do this. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, we had a little bit of a sibling rivalry. So I was like, if you do it, I'm not going to do it. And so I did everything besides FFA. I mean, I was a competitive dancer. I rode horses. I was in band and student council. I like to tell myself I didn't have time. Well, eventually, long story short, she just about drugged me to my first FFA meeting. And then when I got there, it was just the end of my freshman year. And I was like, holy cow, these people are great. Like, they care about me. They care about my well-being. They want to see me succeed. And I just felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself. And so right off the bat, I fell in love with the organization. And then I had opportunities to go to state convention, and that solidified it for like everything for me. And so I like to tell people, if it wasn't for my sister, I would not be here today. I'm super thankful that she pulled me along to my first FFA meeting back my freshman year of high school.
I really like that story that you said there about your sister got you into agriculture, into your first ever FFA experience. Mm-hmm. I actually have a very similar experience like that. My brother, he's the oldest in my family. He was actually the first one in my entire family to be a part of FFA. Aww. And the weird thing about it is that my brother wasn't really your typical FFA member. He was in the special needs program, and the FFA program really showed him that he belonged somewhere. And that's how I found out FFA and made me really love this organization. So it's definitely, some people could be from their family members, some people could be just like, everyone's an FFA. But like for us, it's our siblings. And I feel like that's pretty cool, that like the sibling connection to get us in it. That's a really cool thing.
So I love that. Yes, you have connections like that. I mean, whether it's a sibling or a friend or an upperclassman, like what I love about FFA is it's very relationship oriented. And so people can pull you in. It's just a matter of when are they going to do it?
Yeah, one connection like sparks everything. I mean, I know
yeah.
Oh yeah, like my younger siblings, like they're both younger than me, but like they saw what I was doing. They're like, no, I'm not gonna do FFA. And I was like, yes, you are. And then
you just wait.
I was like, yes, you are, because whenever you meet your middle school advisors, you're gonna want to join. And then they join, and then they follow. They're like, wow, it's kind of cool. And I was like, I know.
Yes, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So our next question that we have for you is going to be, could you share some key goals you aim to achieve during your term as the National FFA President?
Yeah, most definitely. So one of my biggest goals when I was running for national office and then I'm upholding while I'm serving as a national officer is something that's really important to me is one-on-one relationships. And so my big goal is that when I'm in environments of maybe a state convention or a camp or a conference, I like to walk away with knowing at least 3 names, and not just knowing their names, but knowing what's beneath that name. So where are they from, or what are their interests? Who are they? What's inside their blue jacket, not what's on the outside. And so I really value those one-on-one connections. And so my first goal would be to walk away with 3 names. But my second goal would be, we have the unique opportunity to sit on the National FFA Board of Directors. And so we have the opportunity to impact policy, make change, with the help of our delegates, our state officer delegates. And so I take that to heart and think often, how can I represent the student voice in that way? And so my goal internally is, okay, how am I sitting here and how do I think of freshman Amara? Or how do I think of an FFA member in the corner of the United States? Because it really matters about that experience. I'm just the one that happens to be blessed enough to be sitting here. And so it's my goal to keep the student in mind when I'm sitting in those board meetings, because we need people advocating for us on behalf, in order to have an organization that can go another 100 years, because we're about to hit that 100-year mark.
Mm-hmm.
And so making those one-on-one connections and then being the student voice of reason, those are my 2 main goals this year.
Yeah, no, I think those are great goals. Like, I understand the community part. I mean, obviously we're on a smaller scale, but something that we have both said, like even from our first time meeting each other, we've told some people this, but like the first time meeting each other was in the voting room, I guess. And we kind of just like connected, just like, wow, it'd be kind of cool if we were elected. And then we got elected, and they were just like,
It
okay.
happens.
Yeah, we're like, okay, now we want the same spark to happen with other people. And that's sort of what it's been going on. We're like, we want to connect other people the same way that we connected with each other. And we kind of just want that to bounce off and kind of spark the community that FFA has had for so long.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's really good goals. I like that. I like personability.
Thank
So
you.
our next question would be, speaking of the students, what advice do you have for students aspiring to take on the leadership roles in FFA?
When I think of myself back when I was a student trying to take on leadership roles, I often wish that I would have realized that there was a perfect time and place for me in that moment, and I deserved to be there. And so to have confidence to be there. And so my advice would be that, whether you're a freshman or you're a senior and you're trying to take on a leadership role that has a title, or maybe it's literally just something in the classroom on a project, and whatever that looks like, just have confidence that you're meant to be a part of that team and that you're going to make an impact, because we all make impact in a lot of different ways. I know it's really easy to compare our leadership style versus what someone else is doing, or we can sit in a room and be like, man, they just are so good at talking to people. I feel like I'm so shy. Just know that your leadership style is important, and on all teams, we need those different dynamics. And so have confidence in who you are and your style, and know that it is going to make an impact.
I love that you said that actually about everybody has their own leadership style. So with different officer teams that me and Natalie have both been on, we both know that there's a wide variety of FFA members. And when you have a team of a bunch of new people, or even serving as a district officer, 2 people that might be completely different for 2 different schools, we usually are, you're supposed to be able to work on both of your strengths and help each other with your weaknesses to grow stronger. And I feel that
100%.
with FFA, we've been able to do that successfully, from our chapter officers, the federation, for our counties, to even being a state or national officer, because we're all just so many different types of people. But with those connections that we make, we're able to unite as one and be able to be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Yeah. And it's so important, like on any team I find myself on, inside and outside of FFA. I mean, even now at college or in a summer internship, like you mentioned, drawing in those strengths and those weaknesses is so important, because we'll never think of all the greatest ideas on our own. We need to collaborate and work with each other. And so the sooner we recognize that, and the sooner we can pull on those strengths and focus less on our differences, then I really think we can start to build great teams.
That was very well said. So our next question that we have for you is, how has your position impacted your personal growth?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind. It's been crazy since November 4th. But without a doubt, ever since November 4th to now, January 26th, I being elected, I think, has impacted me in many different ways. The main being that, when my name is called on stage, it's almost like when you're a candidate, you're like, oh, I'm waiting like for this thing to change or this thing to happen. And truly, and maybe you felt this way when you got elected to your position, like you're still the same person. I'm still Amara Jackson. I still make mistakes. I'm still the same person that I am. And so it was a good reminder that, you know what, like this year, like it's my goal to just show up for people as who I am, like the most authentic version of myself, the most real version of myself, because that's what people need. People need real connection. And so in a way, this position has just reinstilled in me the mindset of I have to show up as myself. I have to show up as Amara every single day. And I still work on that. I mean, we all deal with like, oh, well, maybe I could change this, or I could fix this, or I could grow in this way. But to some degree, you're like, but I have to be content with who I am. And so it's been finding that fine line this year, is within the last 3 months, really, of what that looks like for me, and like figuring out how do I articulate who I am to people so that way they can meet me and understand me and trust me. And so long story short, I mean, this position has really allowed me to find in the highs and the lows who is Amara and how do I articulate that. And I've really appreciated that, because we're about to hit the road soon, and I'm gonna get to meet a lot of different people, and I'm just happy with who I am and how I can present myself and the ways that I can connect to people. And it wouldn't be without my time in the FFA that I would have that skill.
Yeah, of course. I think one thing that we've learned just from talking from other people is that being yourself is honestly the most important thing about having any sort of position. Doesn't matter if you're a member or if you're an officer. That is the most important thing. That if you lose yourself, you're going to lose that personability and you're not going to be able to connect with people in the same way that you used to, because you're still trying to connect with yourself in the first place. So honestly, that's kind of the main basis, which is important, which I can't even imagine on such a big scale how hard it might be to even understand yourself in the first place and what your role is and what you are and what you're not supposed to do. So I appreciate for you that you're able to take on the responsibility and still become yourself and be yourself, even with the pressures of that national office has for you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. I mean, truly, you just have to find. I had a mentor tell me once that you just have to find what makes you feel like you and do those things every single day. And I mean, it could be as simple as if going for a walk outside makes you feel like yourself, go do it. Or if listening to music and like jamming your head in the car makes you feel like you, go do it. Just like find little things throughout your day that makes you remind you of like, oh, this is me, and this is what my happiness looks like. This is what contentment feels like. Doing those things allows you to remain connected and grounded with who you are.
Yeah, of course. I think that's so important. So our kind of like last question for the national office portion would be is what is the most memorable moment of your state national office like your national office opportunity? Doesn't matter what it is. It can be funny, it can be serious. We like to keep it, you could do both if you wanted to. We kind of like to keep it fun, keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah. Oh, favorite memory or experience so far. Actually today we had the opportunity, we had a day of Japan training, because we're heading to Japan tomorrow for our international experience. And it was really fun getting to learn. We're learning Japanese, like we're learning how to introduce ourselves, how to say our names, how to say different words. And it was really fun just like sitting with my teammates, listening to how they say words, and then like they poke fun at me because I have a northern accent, I guess. And they're like just like listening and poking around and like feeling that out was really fun. And it was different. It was different than any other trainings that we had or a lot of different conversations. And so I enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward and I'm anticipating with excitement the opportunity to use those greetings alongside my teammates. And so I would say that today most recently, but then I don't know, I still think back. Another good memory was November 5th. I mean, like, it's the day after you're elected, and like we went out to breakfast and we were just hanging out as a team, and it's like, holy cow, like I'm here. Like I slept through the night, like I'm here.
You made it, you made
And
it.
I made it. And so I just remember sitting there and like glancing across the room and being like, whoa, like we made it. And I'm excited. And so I always hold that rich feeling close to my heart, because like in the great days and the days when you're tired and the moments where it's slower, like whoa, like that's still I want to remain to that childlike feeling of excitement pure joy. And so I still think of that first like day within 24 hours of being elected, like, holy cow, like I'm here. And so small, such a small moment in time, really. But those two have been just good memories, that just pure memories that I hold close in my heart.
I really like this because you talk about how it's actually happening. This is real right now. And I feel like we can all relate to that because even if it's something on a small scale that it could be big for that individual person of getting
Mhm.
their chapter chaplain position, like that's big for people, or because it is big,
It
or
is.
somebody having like a spark when they're able to get honor roll for their school, like these little things that make us so happy. And after the first 24 hours, that's when it truly does set in that, wow, this is really happening. And I love that those are like your favorite memories of being able to have a fun time with your teammates, learning an entirely new language and learning about somebody else's culture, as well as being able to learn about yourself truly. So
Mhm.
through your whole journey, from what I've heard, is a lot of learning goes on in national office. So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool.
A lot of learning does go on. I just remembered one more quick memory. Last week we had the opportunity to be in Florida for Experience Week, and so we get to try on keynotes and workshops and different greetings that we. It's essentially to replicate what your year could look like, but in a week.
Mhm.
And we were at a high school, Orlando Colonial,
Oh yeah.
um, and it was a blast. The students were great to us. It was so much fun. But we got to tour the facilities there, and there were a couple of students who just had incredible projects. And I still like I scroll through my camera roll, and Valerie is one of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. And then there was Amanda has ducks, and like she was showing us her ducks and explaining her awards that she's gotten. And I still am like, man, like that is what FFA students are doing, and that's like why we're here. And I love thinking back on my visit there with Orlando Colonial, because I just had a wonderful program. So shout out to Florida for you
Yeah.
all. But yeah, that was third little blip of time that I'm like, oh man, I just really love that time with those students.
So actually to go into like what you just said about hearing about all those really cool SAEs. So my question for you is, are there any unique SAEs other than what you spoke about that
Yeah.
you've seen throughout your years in FSA? And if so, what were they?
Mhm. Yeah. So this last summer, when I was Michigan's national officer candidate, I had the opportunity in Michigan to run a conference called State Leadership Conference for regional officers. And there was this one regional officer that at the conclusion of the conference had came up to me, and we were talking. Her name was Sarah. And I was talking to Sarah, and like for context, in this conference, I had noticed Sarah from time to time. But man, she's like really killing it. Like she's so poised, or really respectful. Like wonderful ideas. And so I was excited when she had came up to me at the end to chat, and I was like, "Hey Sarah, like what's next for you? Like what are you thinking? Like I know you're going into your senior year. Like what are you thinking about? What's next?" And she's like, "Well, she's like, I'd love to run for state office." She's like, "But I can't get my state FFA degree." And I was like, "Why? Like what's going on?" And she's like, well, she's like, I have an SAE. She's like, but it's not really developed yet. And I want to do this other idea. And I was like, well, like, what's this other idea? And she's like, I'd love to create a YouTube channel that talks about foreign ag ownership, land ownership, and like explain it. And I was like, okay, girl, like pop off. But no, but for context, she had just won state public speaking contest, and she's going to be competing at nationals. This was in 23. And with her speech topic of foreign land ownership in America within agriculture. And so she wanted to take all this information, all this experience that she had gained from her speech, and turn it into an SAE. And she did, and it took a couple months, but she developed this YouTube channel. She shares it on social media, and she's essentially just creating digestible YouTube channels that can explain, like videos that can explain what is going on with foreign land ownership in a way that like anyone could understand, which is so interesting to me. Like for a student to be able to comprehend that and then digest it and then share it and educate the public in a way that we could understand a topic that is full of policy and full of maybe confusion or just a lot of depth. I was very impressed when she was interested in that and then made it come to life. But that's just one unique SAE. It's really neat. During your time, you get to see what students are doing and the unique projects that they're doing. I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that in high school? Like, what the heck? And so I love hearing student stories like Sarah and all the good things that they're doing for agriculture, really, because at the end of the day, they're serving the industry in a way that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this new idea. And so that's the beauty of FFA and agriculture education, is to create a place that fosters those new ideas.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's an idea that I would have never thought of, but it's really important. Like it's actually a really cool idea. And also it's like one thing to understand content like that, and then it's another thing to be a teacher of content like that and
Yes.
being able to make it understandable, because teaching in itself is a hard job, and being a student and learning how to do that is something that you just have to applaud her for, which is really amazing. And that's the thing with these unique SAEs, is whenever you find these little snippets of kind of like your personality, it's like, I think this is cool, I should share it with other people. I think that's so cool and important, because it kind of gets to see what they're like and what they find important. You're just like, wow, you put a lot of work into that, and that's crazy, but it looks really good.
Yeah, I'm like clapping for you, girl, because
Yeah.
that was like, I could have never thought of that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
I'm
super
like,
exciting.
yeah, no, same thing. I'm like, how did you do that? It's just crazy. It's mind blowing.
That's how I feel about like your podcast. I'm like, why didn't I think of this? This is so cool. This is so mind blowing. Like, what the heck? I love it.
Thank you. So, our next question is: in what way has your SAE experience shaped your perspective on agriculture and its role in your community?
Yeah, so I had 2 supervised agricultural experiences in high school, I had mentioned. So I had equine science. So I grew up raising and showing horses with my family. So that right away taught, like, that was boots on the ground right away, taught me, what is agriculture? How do we take care of animals, specifically, like, the responsibility of getting up every morning and going out at night, feeding, just the grassroots hard work. That it taught me that. And then I had another SAE, ag sales SAE, where I worked at a local farm to table type store. And so I worked in there, in all the food, produce, meat, everything was locally sourced. And so people could come in and get whatever type of groceries they were looking for within local. So it was within our county. And I loved that because it was an opportunity to educate people about where their food came from. And just, it was amazing, the conversations that I had. And it was with people in my own community. And I live in a rural community. And so I was like, man, if people have these questions and they live in this small rural community in Michigan, what kind of questions do we have in big cities, urban cities? And so that opened my eyes to understanding that it's really important how we share the story of agriculture, and that it's really important that we are advocating for the agriculture industry, because we all like to eat, and we all like to eat maybe 3 times a day. So that taught me a wider scope of understanding the perception and recognizing, man, not everybody has the perception that I do. And sometimes we need to slow down and explain why we do what we do, and then just doing that in a digestible way for people in a local community, people on social media, people in urban areas, whatever that looks like. Just making sure that we're taking time to do that as agriculturists is really important.
I really like both of your SAEs because they might be like very different things, from equine to being able to have your ag sales, but I feel like they both influence the agriculture industry in completely different ways, but they're all still benefiting agriculture. And like you said earlier, we're all just here to help the agriculture industry with our different types of supervised agriculture experiences that we have. I really love your ag sales essay because that's something that I've heard about, but now that you've explained it more, it makes a lot more sense. Because I know me and Natalie in the past would struggle with being able to find what SAE do we want to do that fits us and that we can actually make an impact. So even doing the ag sales SAE, you're able to actually make an impact on the world, learn a few things as you do it, and just get a great experience. So I really love those SAEs.
Thank you. Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. It was during COVID. I was bored and they were looking for some people to help. And I was like, well, I'm just sitting at home. I might as well go. And I'm super glad I did that. And I learned so much.
What was your favorite CDE/LDE, and did that help you with your SAE?
Yeah. So my favorite LDE was prepared public speaking. Honestly, I think the skills that I learned in prepared public speaking translated over into my ag sales SAE the most, simply because it got me talking to people, it got me comfortable in multiple degrees. So one-on-one conversation, but also in front of an audience. And then also just like my research through the different public speaking topics that I had, I was able to take some of that back to my SAE. And as I was having conversations, share some of that information, then I was like, man, I'm really factual. Like I know what I'm talking about. And so I would say that between the studying and the research, but also the soft skills of like being able to public speak and communicate, definitely translated over into that ag sales SAE.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing more, I guess there's nothing more like better feeling when somebody asks you a question and you're like, I know the answer actually. So I feel like just that like feeling is so great. And I did like the actual ag sales competition, and something about
Oh,
that
that's great.
competition is like the one-on-one, even though it's a judge, you still know it's like a real person, I guess. So like you know you're having a fake conversation, but it still feels real. You're still having that one-on-one experience, and you're just like, wow, I kind of know how to talk to people. So then you bring those experiences out and you go and talk to other people. And then I've done different public speaking things. I'm like, okay, if I can do it one-on-one, I can do it in front of other people as well. So kind of just that like understanding of the balance is kind of what works for these CDEs and how they can bounce off of each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite CDs or LDs?
So my favorite would have to be parliamentary procedure. This was my first ever state winning contest that we were able to go to nationals for. And yeah, thank you. It was more of the backstory of our par pro team. So the year that my par pro team was competing was the year that my ag advisor, Mr. Cruz, passed away. So it was very hard for us because we all were coached by him, and we felt a lot of pressure that we needed to win for him, or we wanted to win for him, and that we had so much support supporting us through it. And a lot of people doubted us that we had a lot going on, and we had an advisor who had to take over the position of coaching our team to get us to win. And just the amount of love and dedication that each of the members on the team had really made me love Par Pro even more. I know other states call it Parley Pro, but us Floridians like to call it Par Pro. But I just feel like the experience and the story behind it made that my favorite contest.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
My favorite has to be farm and agribusiness management. It's definitely a smaller competition. I did not hear about it until I competed in it that year. I went into it not knowing anything about the contest. We figured out like 2 months beforehand, we're like, hey, this looks like an interesting-ish contest. Let's try it out. And we got first in the state, which it's a very big thing for my chapter. We hadn't had like a first place in a couple years now, and or at least first place for a contest that went to nationals. So it was our first team that went to nationals in a few years. So kind of just the opportunity that the contest bring in the first place is why it was sort of my favorite, even though I hadn't been doing it for multiple years. Just the experience that it brought and the memories that I have from being with the same 4 people every other day, experiencing the things that maybe we don't understand, asking questions, bouncing off, and then just spending a week in Indianapolis was so much fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That is
Yeah.
so cool. And I love that, like, that's like one of the things I love is like between like you two, like very two different experiences, and like even like between us three really. But that just shows like how much there's something for everybody, like between farm business management or par pro, we call it Parley Pro, but par pro, or public speaking. I think it's really cool that, I mean, we talked about community in the beginning of our conversation, and it comes back like there's literally something for everybody. I love that about FFA.
So our final question is what is one piece of advice that you would like to share to our listeners?
One piece of advice that I would give some listeners is to just trust the process, and that could be trust the process in life. It could be maybe you're making a school decision, maybe trust the process within your FFA journey. Maybe you're trying to strive towards doing really good in a contest, or getting a chapter office, or maybe that's trusting the process with your schoolwork or maybe a job, whatever that looks like. I truly believe that there's a lot of importance in understanding that everything happens for a reason. And my faith is something that's really important to me. And so I truly believe that, everything happens for a reason, and we have to trust that the things that do happen to us only shape us to become better. And so I know, and I still struggle, that I'm like, man, I wish that went a different way. Like, why can't it be, this way or that way? Or I wanted to say that, or I wanted this to happen. But just trust that whatever happens is meant to happen. And I mentioned earlier, like, where you're at is where you're meant to be, and you're perfectly placed at a time that you're in. And so just trust that and have confidence in yourself and confidence in that time being, and that whatever season you're in, you definitely will grow from. So just trust that.
I love that you said trust the process, because even if it wasn't what we wanted to happen or what we expected to happen, or even if it was what we expected to happen, God does everything for a reason. And
Mhm.
it's the way that we react to those different types of ways that our process works shows our true character. And I know through my experience in FFA, I have tried out for positions and I didn't get them.
Mhm.
But that just pushed me to try out for something new and
Yeah.
better opportunities and better people that I get to be with, and a bigger opportunity that I can help more people with. And I think that that's just one thing that we can learn from FFA, is that things might not go exactly how we had planned, or we have no idea how that even happened. But once we put our hands in God and truly trust the process, that's when true action can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you just, even on the chapter level, sometimes there just has to be like an optimistic light in a way where everybody's just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't like it. Everybody's arguing back and forth. You just have to be like, wait, I think that it's gonna work. We just have to trust it. We have to plan it out. We have to make sure we have all the steps. And it's kind of just going step by step before immediately ditching it and just going, oh, okay, we're not doing it anymore. So I think that's a very important part in trusting the process, is first realizing the importance of the process.
100%. 100%. Like like, a lot of people be like, oh, enjoy the journey before the destination. But like truly, like you have to, because if you're constantly rushing towards that final like project or final goal, like 90% of our time is spent on the journey up to that goal. And so if you're looking past it, you're gonna miss out on what life has to truly offer, because only 10% of our life is actually getting the goal. And
Mhm.
so trusting that experience is super important.
Yeah, of course. So that was our final question. Thank you so much, Amara, for coming with us. Listeners, if you have any questions or something that you would like to know more about this podcast, just DM our Instagram at the Blue and Gold Radio, and we would love to get in contact with you.
Now, with that being said, I believe we just concluded the 5th episode of the Blue and Gold Radio.
Yay!
So I just want to say thank you so much, Amara, for coming in with or tuning in with us today for this episode. And we're so happy that we got to hear from you today and really grow from this whole experience. So thank y'all all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.